Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the #1 source for the RVGCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RVGCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RVGCR. Brought to you by Freedom Fighter. Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter, and welcome to Goldilocks Global Banking News. I am your host. Folks, there are several things that are happening, the dynamics related to the RV. There are several things that are happening simultaneously that is leading up to the ultimate event of the global currency reset happening. Goldilocks is sharing that information today. Let's jump right into it. The DTCC, which is the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. This is a global agency. When it comes to our currencies being cleared in the banking system, exchanged in the banking system, when it comes to all transactions being cleared in the banking system, it is done through the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, because our transactions must clear on one side or the other of a transaction. When you exchange your currency, for example, if you exchange your currency from the Iraqi dinar or Vietnamese dong or whatever currency into your own home country currency, it has to what? Clear. So the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation is joining what's called the ERC Association. Folks, bottom line, this is all having to do with tokenizing assets. This is liquidity or money flowing into the new digital banking system. First, the DTCC, which is the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, aims to leverage blockchain technology to enhance its efficiency, security, transparency, and processing. What's the blockchain? The new quantum financial system, the new banking system. This is how money flows through the new digital banking system. Also, the DTCC's commitment to support asset tokenization. This is the digital representation of assets, digital representation of dong, dinar, gold, every currency. The digital representation is the tokenization through cryptocurrencies, folks. This is all what this does. And finally, the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation's involvement in shaping how the new financial system is completed through digital assets. No matter what, everything is going to go through the new banking system and digital assets that are tokenized. Then on top of that, Goldilocks is sharing about Ripple. Folks, it is the Ripple stablecoin, RLUSD, which has now been fully integrated into Ripple's payment solutions. This is how XRP will be utilized to exchange our currencies in the new banking system through Ripple. XRP is owned on the network of Ripple. Now the Ripple stablecoin, understand, RLUSD, which is the Ripple stablecoin, will be utilized to provide stability to our money in the new digital banking system once we exchange. Also, the Ripple stablecoin RLUSD will actually be utilized to facilitate our exchanges as well on the back end, whereby the banks will use the stablecoin to help provide stability behind our exchanges. Think of extra protection on our exchanges. Now, the integration in the Ripple payments allows cross-border providers such as Forex to utilize the Ripple stablecoin for improved transactions and settlement of currency exchanges. Now is no coincidence. At this time, we also have the reciprocal tariffs that are making huge waves around the world and all currencies. Right now, you can think of this as a big shakeup in the global currency markets. And it hasn't really even started yet. These tariffs officially begin on April the 9th. As of this recording, on April the 4th, yesterday, there was evidence that President Trump engaged in negotiations with Vietnam. That's right. President Trump was on the phone negotiating with Vietnam to discuss trade and also indirectly discuss the value of the Vietnamese dong. Trump posted on his social platform, Truth Social, about the phone call, stating that Vietnam is willing to reduce its tariffs on U.S. goods to zero if an agreement can be reached to avoid the tariffs that the United States is imposing on Vietnam at 46%. This aligns with the reports from Bloomberg News stating the same thing about this phone call that President Trump had with Vietnam. While these discussions primarily focus on tariffs, the issue of Vietnam's currency, the Vietnamese dong, has been a long-standing point of contention. Folks, what this is referring to is the manipulation on the Vietnamese dong that Vietnam has intentionally done for many years. President Trump has an issue with it. During Trump's first term, the U.S. Treasury labeled Vietnam a currency manipulator. This was in 2020. And accused Vietnam of intervening to keep the Vietnamese dong and its value lower in order to boost the exports into their country. So think about it like this. A country can devalue their currency if they have large amount of exports coming out of their country. They make more money by keeping their currency lower. This led to negotiations in 2021, the same issue. And an agreement was reached with Vietnam, where Vietnam pledged to stop devaluing the Vietnamese dong. However, they didn't. The current tariff pressure, in part, which is a part of Trump's reciprocal tariffs, it could push Vietnam to adjust their currency practices, as a weaker dong exacerbates trade imbalances that Trump aims to address. So what we are witnessing is the negotiations have started. What negotiations? Tariff negotiations. What does that include? Currency negotiations. Not where Trump negotiates Vietnam's rate or any other country's currency rate. Each country and their central bank is responsible for where they ultimately value their currencies. But it is the tariffs that affect ultimately where a country and their central bank decides to value their currency, depending, pay attention, on supply and demand of that currency on the water. Why? That's where trade is done. And these tariffs are what? Taxes on the products and goods on the water. So if countries have grossly devalued their currency, falsely suppressed their currency intentionally to help their exports of goods to make money, now President Trump, through these tariffs, is forcing these countries to make a shift in their tariffs and to make a shift in the value of their currencies. So when you have tokenized assets, gold, you have the Ripple stablecoin and other factors all collectively, and the money, the liquidity coming into the banking system through the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation to clear transactions. As you see, everything is connected to everything. No coincidence that all of this is done right now at the same time. On the Saturday Night Dialogues call, we're going to go into more depth with more receipts so you can see how it's all coming together. You are in the right place at the right time with the right people. We love you. Be well. See you on Saturday. Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the #1 source for the RVGCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RVGCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RVGCR. Brought to you by Freedom Fighter.